Queens don't chase. That's how your crown falls off. A tweet by Life Girl. Hello and welcome to episode 64 of the Toya Talks podcast. I am your host, Miss Toya Washington, and thank you for joining. I know. Let's just kind of address the elephant in the room. So last week I did not upload an episode of the Toya Talks podcast. I have been recording the podcast for over a year now. It's actually a year and a half. I record, I edit, I do all the mixing, everything. I've become a self-proclaimed sound engineer as well. I do all my editing and I upload, and every single Tuesday I upload. And I can't sit here and talk about giving ourselves grace and allowing ourselves and giving ourselves permission to say we're tired and take time out for ourselves without leading by example and doing the same. And last week I was mentally exhausted. I was mentally completely drained, and I felt like there is no way I can record a podcast episode without giving 110%. Toya Talks as a platform, as a podcast, is my baby, and I love it. I love being able to teach you guys, educate, advise, and guide Black women how to navigate the world of work safely, and in turn light up the path of our success. But in order to do that, I have to be balanced enough. I have to have slept to be balanced. I need to have just taken some time out for myself. And I think, you know how it is, isn't it? Society doesn't give us the grace to have any human emotions. And we are raised to be the quote unquote strong Black woman, which in itself is quite toxic, because it doesn't allow us to be anything other than strong. And anything other than strong is seen as a weakness. We're dehumanized and emotions are not attributed to us as Black women, but you call us strong Black women. We're not allowed to sometimes just be. And I needed to just be. I had a few people that sent me messages, and one thing I always say is you need to follow me on social media, because I will always post. I'll never just kind of go AWOL. That's just not who I am. I did post very early in the morning, Tuesday morning, to say there will not be an episode. I'm just taking some time out. I just need a break for a week. And there was a few people that obviously don't follow me on socials or didn't go on my social media. I had a couple of messages, Toya, is this the end of the podcast? Come on. I would never, ever, ever just walk away from this podcast without telling you guys. I have no plans to walk away. What I do have is a book full of treatments of episodes that are up and coming. But equally as well, I'm not going to sit here and say I've taken a week off and I'm 100%. No, I'm still exhausted. I'm still tired. There is a lot on my plate. And I can't wait to the end of the year where we do the roundup, because there is so much that I want to tell you guys, inform you guys. There's going to be some aha moments for a lot of you guys. And some of you are going to be really, really shocked at what happens and what's been happening behind the scenes. But it will further add to the platform. And in loving what I do, I will always bring 100% to this podcast, because I know that we as Black women are not afforded safe spaces to just be, to share, to talk, to teach each other. And I feel as though God has given me the opportunity through this podcast and through the Toya Talks platform to create this for us to benefit, for us to really be open and honest about our experiences in the world of work and our experiences as Black women in life. And I would never, ever, ever come on this episode and give you a subpar episode because I'm tired. I'd rather just take the time out, recuperate and come back. That being said, it's really, really hot. And I haven't put my fan on because I'm just worried that the mic is really, really sensitive. It's right near the fan. It will just pick it up and you won't hear me. And then it will just be it'd be bad, right? So I was planning to call this episode the Wasteman Society episode. However, true to form, whenever you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. And the way my ancestors are set up, they will always tell me what I need to speak about, irrespective of what plans I have for future episodes. That being said, I recognise I've received quite a lot of dilemmas in the Toya Talks email box. So if you have any work-related or life-related dilemmas, please email hello@toyatalks.com and I will help you. As brutally honest as I am, as direct as I am, I'll always give you the practical tools and suggestions in dealing with your dilemma. So that being said, on Saturday morning, early Saturday morning, I got a message on Snapchat, and a young lady reached out to me. She said, Toya, I've sent you a message, sorry, I've sent you a DM on Instagram, and I've got a dilemma, I really need your help. And I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. I was annoyed because I was like, it's so early in the morning, it's a Saturday. I'm like having my 1 week break. Like, I just want to rest. And then I thought, actually, do you know what, Toya? Just go ahead and have a look at this dilemma. Now, I'm going to read her dilemma. I'm also going to share with you what I've advised her. But equally, I want you guys to learn some lessons from this dilemma and everything that I'm going to add on this episode, because I think it's really important. A couple of things, right? It's really important that we recognise that navigating the world of work doesn't stop at a certain time for us as Black women, because the structures that have been created are not for our benefit, okay? They benefit Black men long before they will benefit us. And in teaching you how to navigate a system that is institutionally racist, we have to be able to understand and recognise, number one, the red flags, number two, how we have to navigate, not assimilate, navigate. And they're two different things. And equally, I've given you guys tools like the burn folder, feedback folder, doing your due diligence, and I have episodes. I introduced this particular episode as episode 64. That's 64 episodes. 64 episodes of content about how to navigate work. 64 episodes of examples of my own personal experiences. 64 episodes of success stories. 64 episodes of understanding and providing you guys the tools to navigate the world of work. And I'm not sitting here saying that even where I am in my career, that the navigating stops. I've always told you guys, it's just a different, I have an episode, the higher the level, the higher the devil, or new level, new devil, or something. Yeah, new level, new devil. Sorry, how can I forget my own episode? And it's more to highlight to you that once you really understand the system, like the white man system of the workplace and the oppressiveness, and understand that you're constantly fighting for your job every day, it's just about degree, okay? So what I mean is you're fighting for your job every day. Every day you switch on your laptop, or some of you are going into the office or going into your workplaces. You are fighting for your job from the moment you enter the building. It's the good morning. It's the small talk. It's the every situation whereby it could possibly be interpreted differently, because white people and their fragility, their setup doesn't attribute itself to anything that is remotely professional. I'm sorry. And yes, we say some and not all, but there's a reality here. When white people have been indoctrinated to understand privilege, that is their existence. Their entire existence is predicated on white privilege. And therefore, they believe that they're superior, and society is constructed to make them superior. So when we're going into their spaces, they want to dominate us. Yeah? They're coming out of homes where their families are telling them that they're better than everybody else, and that we've come over to take their jobs. So is it any wonder that every day we are fighting for our jobs, and it's just about degree? So you could be at your workplace for how many years, and you've never had any real, and I say real issues, but issues that would, lend itself to having a difficult work experience. But believe me, you're still fighting for your job, because it just takes one new manager, a restructure, a colleague. It could take something so minor that could turn so big. And I think that it's important that we understand the degree in which we are constantly fighting for our jobs. And when I say the word fighting, I say in inverted commas. I don't mean the actual act of. I mean the strategic way in which we do it here on the Toya Talks podcast. So let me read this dilemma to you. We're going to break it down and we're going to have a conversation. Good morning, Toya. I hope you're well. Apologies for the random message, but I wanted your advice and if you could help me on a professional level. So I've contracted for 3 years, and last year, December, I decided to take a permanent role for stability and to help with my mortgage. I've been excelling in my role. Recently, the first finance director of the company joined, and since then, she has been picking on me a lot. Thursday afternoon, I was pulled for a last-minute performance review by which she was cherry-picking things she doesn't think I was doing correctly. Long story short, she suggested we could consider options of demoting me from a finance manager to finance assistant. And then she's put in there a shocked emoji. She said nothing is set in stone. It's a suggestion and I should go away and think of what I think is best, etc. Toya, exclamation mark. I walked out of the meeting. A friend called me and said my job has been advertised via an agency. So whilst they were having this quote unquote genuine chat with me, they've already advertised my role. Is this illegal? Question mark. Can you advise me on what to do? I'm supposed to have a follow-up meeting and I think I want to raise a grievance. Can you assist me as I believe your work within contract law, if that's correct? I need urgent help and happy to pay any fees. Please let me know if you can help. Thanks in advance. I'm petrified. My mortgage appointment is next month and I don't know what to do. So when I read this message, the first thing I asked her is, do you have a burn folder? And she said no. So then the second question is, do you listen to the Toya Talks podcast? She said no. And I was really angry. I was really, 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 really annoyed. I'm going to just be completely honest, as I've always been on this podcast. I was annoyed because clearly you know who I am, right? So you must have seen, I think this young lady's been following me from Snapchat days, and that's where Toya Talks was born. So you clearly were following me because of the content, but you hadn't listened to the podcast. So I said to her, I can't assist you in handling this grievance because I'm taking some time out. But I will give you advice, right? That's the best I could do. I could give you advice and kind of guide you, but I can't take this on. And I want this to be known on this podcast, right? I do not take on private clients. I just don't do it. The podcast is a safe space for you to write in with your dilemmas, whether you listen to the podcast or not. But what I will say is before you write in, just listen to an episode. Afford me and the platform the respect of listening to an episode, because clearly if you found me, it's either because you've been following the platform for a while or maybe somebody's recommended it. But before you would tell anybody what you need help with, you would look at the platform to check if there is something that attributes to what you need. And I'm really, 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 really careful. And when I say careful, I'm careful with the summaries of each episode because I want people to really extract what they need. So I'm careful at making sure that every summary for every episode has as much information as possible, so that if you don't follow the platform and you've kind of come across the podcast for the first time and you don't want to maybe start from the beginning, which I don't know why you wouldn't, but whatever, right? Then at least in the summary of each that accompanies each episode will give a bit of detail about what the episode is about. So the dilemmas, for example, I would write it's a dilemma episode. I maybe would put a caption in relation to one of the dilemmas, and then in the summary I would create some information there for you. I did, however, ask her also so anyway, she said she doesn't have a burn folder, and then she said that she did because she went on Google to find out what a burn folder is. And I'm telling you, I said to her, listen, I didn't ask you about Google, and the burn folder is not on Google. It's what I have created here on the podcast, right? So I then directed her to part 1 of the whistleblower episode, which is the last episode of this podcast. So yeah, where I was talking about Dominic Cummings, right? So I asked her to go and have a listen. I asked her a couple of questions. I asked her, your manager, what race is she? Where is she from? She said she's a white lady. I said, yeah, well, I'm not surprised by that. I asked her how long she'd been in the organisation. She said since December. She'd already said it anyway, but I wanted to ask her again. And then I said to her, you need to make a grievance complaint because you're fighting for your job. I need you to understand that at the point in which they called a last minute, listen, if you're going to do a performance review, first and foremost, your performance review, they will have to give you notice, because you should be able to critique your own performance too. They can't call you last minute for a performance review, and it needs to be structured. So I'm expecting, like, you know, an agenda, maybe, and I'm just giving you an example here, but at the very least, I'm expecting you to get 1 or 2 days notice, not last minute, where you haven't prepared. Because if you're getting them last minute performance reviews, believe me, it's not a performance review, it's the beginning of them managing you out. Okay. I said to her, listen, if you do not have, because then she said that she thinks she has a file with emails in it. I was like, okay, well, you need to create your burn folder then. And I said to her, I was really annoyed. I was like, why have you come to me so late? Like, why have you left it to this point? You know, things must have happened beforehand. And she didn't really answer the question, so I just kind of left it. Because at the end of the day, no matter how annoyed I am at maybe her approach or lack thereof, the reality is that she's come to me and she needs help, and I will help as much as possible. So I said, I need you to write this grievance. I said, it cannot be a 4-page letter. Stick to the facts, clarity, examples, reference certain things that are contained in your burn folder that would highlight or further reiterate a point. So I said, you need to email it over to me, and Sunday night I will review it and come back to you. So she did that. She sent me the grievance, and my assistant sent me a text and she says, Toya, there's an urgent email in the mailbox. And I was like, okay, cool. So I went to have a read of it, and as I was reading it, you can tell it was littered with emotions, quite rightly so, right? Because at the end of the day, I'm asking her to recount her experiences, that has now given rise to this grievance. So as I'm reading this grievance, she's referencing things that are pertinent, but most of it is, you know, you've treated me like this, and I don't know why you've treated me and degraded me and you haven't treated me with respect. You know, I had a panic attack in the streets of the city of London, all of this. And as I'm looking at this, I'm realising it's not even 4 pages, it's actually 5 pages, and I'm dyslexic first and foremost. But equally, I just thought, I'm not reading all 5 of this, I'm not doing that. Because anything more than 1.5, maximum 2 pages, everything after that is irrelevant, okay? You should be able to be succinct in your grievance. I even told her you need to, like, basically in the first few lines, the opening paragraph, you need to set out the basis of your grievance. And she didn't do any of it. And I had to take a step back because I couldn't understand, like, she's come to me for help, but she's not listening to me. So I spoke to my fiance. I was like, I'm really, really annoyed. And he said, Toya, you need to ask yourself why you're annoyed. And I'm telling you, as somebody who knows you, why you're annoyed. You're annoyed because you wish you could morph into her body and deal with this. You are annoyed that this is the experience of a fellow Black queen and that this is still going on. You've probably read the contents of her grievance and you are triggered by her experiences because you can't just go in and kind of save the day for her. But you've got to recognise that sometimes people find your platform because it's been recommended, so they don't know who you are. And people do not generally do their due diligence on who they follow. It's like social media, right? Where on social media, you follow someone, but you haven't done your due diligence of the information you're taking in, but you just take it in. And he says it's the same. Like, people know that certain things are good for them, but they'll wait until they're so desperate for it or desperate for help, then they'll go and seek it, but they won't kind of assimilate the information before it becomes critical. And I was like, you're right. So I went back and there were certain examples she was giving. Like, for instance, when her initial boss left, she was actually left in charge, this Black queen, until they hired this new manager who now is basically trying to manage her out. And apparently they basically said to her that, you know, she'd done fantastic, you know, she performed really well in terms of managing the team. And I asked her, I said, have you got evidence of this? Where's the evidence? So they told you were great and you were fantastic. Did they put it in writing? Because one thing about white people in the workplace, and I say white people because let's be honest, it's white structures, okay? Is they're really good at lip service. They're really, really good at lip service. They will ginger you. They will ginger you. You will even start pinching yourself to see if you're still in reality, because the way they will ginger you will take you to a different dimension. But there's a reality here. You are only as great, and it's sad to say this in the workplace, but you're only as good as your last achievement in the office. And I hate to say it, but it's true, because white people got really short memories and sometimes convenient amnesia. When you tell them, oh, remember when you did this? They'll say, oh, I don't remember. But when you confront them with evidence, when you use the policies and you use the guidance and the rules to basically hold them accountable, you get a very different reaction. You almost get quite a defensive reaction. How dare you confront me with the actual truth when I'm quite happy to live in blissful ignorance? I'm quite happy to stop you from being successful. I'm not going to give you your flowers in writing. I'll give it to you verbally, but not in writing. Listen, I don't care what you say to me verbally. I will follow up with a summary email. How after the Toya Talks podcast, you guys are still walking into meetings and not following up with a summary email? And a summary email is just one paragraph, but one or two paragraphs at best. But some of you are taking your bosses and your organizations at their word, rather than going in and protecting yourself from the jump. I digress. So as I was trying to mark, so what I did is I did a markup. And if some of you are wondering what a markup is, so in my job, I do markups of contracts, so I mark them up, right? And I put comments in, and any issues I have with a contract, I'll mark it up. So her grievance complaint, I marked it up. So in marking it up, the first headline was, I'm raising my grievance complaint on the basis of race discrimination, bullying, harassment, and victimization. Those are the basis, because that will give you your structure. And then each heading will have its own explanation of the experience and the example. Because that will give you a more structured approach to a grievance. And it causes you to take the emotion out. Now, when I sent this young lady a voice note, I was really hard on her, because I could still see that she was very, very much in the throes of her emotion. And I said to her, your emotions and your upset and your anger is valid. I'm not trying to tell you that they're not. They are valid. But white people do not even give us the ability to have any human emotion. So why are you showing these people any emotion? Why? They are not going to empathize, and they're not going to sympathize or empathize with you. They're not going to do that, because if they had any respect for you, the first grievance this young lady made, they ignored it. They ignored it. The first grievance she made, they ignored it. And I know this because when she sent me the grievance, it was there. She goes, she made a complaint, and they ignored her. So they knew what they were doing. Okay, this is well thought out. And I said to her, you have to structure this in such a way that you give them no room for maneuver. Okay? And I need you to dig out these emails that support each and every one of these claims as I've structured it in the opening paragraph of this grievance complaint. And I said to her, listen, I don't know why it's taking you this long to react, because at the point in which your manager's shouting at you, at the point in which you're complaining, your complaint's being ignored, this young lady asked for a copy of her contract. So she asked for a copy of her contract, and HR said to her, oh, well, I wasn't working here when you signed your contract, so I don't know where it is. She asked somebody else, they said they don't know. Now, to be honest, I don't know why she asked them for her contract, but when I did probe her, she did say it's because her contract was at home. So obviously what she wanted to write in the office, she needed her contract, so she asked for it. Again, it's like a rookie mistake, because number one, like, even if you want to go to war with these people, and I say war quote unquote, but you know what I mean, if you're going to take these people on, you're not going to let them know how you're coming. Clearly, of course they're not going to give you a copy of your contract. But that further would highlight to me that these people don't give a shit. They don't care. They won't give you a copy of your contract. They won't acknowledge your initial complaint. They're treating you like crap. And to add and top it all off, your boss is talking about demoting you. Yeah? And she's trying to gaslight you when you have challenged her about the way she's treated you. She's told you that you're sulky, you're angry, you're confused. That's gaslighting. And I said to her, at the end of the day, right, you have to understand that at the point in which your job is advertised, you're being managed out. And then one of the other headings as the basis of her grievance is constructive dismissal. Now, the reason I use constructive dismissal is this. So they've bullied her, they've ostracized her, they've gaslighted her. Yeah, they've never raised any concerns about her performance before. She's been there since December. She's had no issues. In fact, they've trusted this young lady enough to make her acting head of a department of finance while they recruited the now manager who's trying to manage her out. And they're basing it on loose things. They when I was reading her grievance, I couldn't see the basis of what they're doing other than this. I think this new manager doesn't like this Black Queen for whatever reason. And the problem is when you have restructures or new managers coming in, some of them, they want to make a name for themselves. So part of that is they want their own team. Do you understand? So they didn't hire you. So for some people, they're like, okay, do you know what? I'm going to get rid of this person. I'm going to get someone else in. That's how they put their mark on things. And I'm sorry, but in studying the white constructs of the workplace, white people have been operating like this for years. White people have been operating like this for years. Do you want to take it back to the slave trade? Ownership, reputation. They want to feel like they've created something. So if it means by throwing you away, that's what they're prepared to do. But the difference is we are more aware of what we're entitled to. We're more aware of our rights. And more importantly, you guys have a podcast that basically dispels every myth possible about the world of work and arms you with the tools to navigate successfully. And this is an opportunity for this girl to fight for her job and navigate this properly. The constructive dismissal element is this. They have advertised, it takes two forms. They have advertised her job. They've advertised their job. Less than 24 hours, because it was on the same day that they told her about her performance issues. Now, if that is not constructive dismissal, I don't know what is. Because what you are doing is you are making and creating an intolerable situation for this employee to stay. So what would an employee do? They resign, isn't it? When you have decided to demote someone, you need to make sure all your ducks are in a row. You can't just wake up one morning and demote someone. It doesn't work like that. They have to show a category of events that have led to somebody being demoted. That includes, warnings. And the company needs to actively show that they've tried to help this employee reach to a higher standard of work if they're saying that her standard of work isn't acceptable. Do you understand? This is a progressive period of time. It doesn't happen in a week. It doesn't happen in a day. There needs to be a plan. An organisation needs to be seen to be supporting an employee to be better at their job. It's only when you set the parameters and you're measuring them and it's clear what you're measuring and that the employee is part of this and they're not hitting those things, then that's a different conversation. But it's all done in collaboration with the employee. This young lady gave so many examples of her boss being inappropriate, disrespectful, rude, aggressive. But after every example was her emotions. It was her emotions. And I think what I found difficult is not wanting to undermine how she felt, but letting her understand that if these people cared about how you felt in the first place, they would have addressed this when you first complained. You know, that complaint that everybody has casually just forgot exists. But this grievance complaint is different because I can probably hear some of you saying, but Toya, well, she's complained already. Why are you asking her to do a grievance? Well, she never actually did a grievance. It was just a formal complaint she made. And this grievance is different because we've got some headlines. We've got racial discrimination. We've got victimization, harassment, bullying, and constructive acts of constructive dismissal. Those are the headlines. So she's now been very clear about what the issues are. And this is what you need to do when you're raising a grievance. The first paragraph needs to detail the basis of your grievance complaint. That will cause you to have a structure. It makes it clear to who's reading it what the basis is and what the issues are. You never want to do a grievance where the issue is not known, or a grievance is full of emotion but not dealing with the actual facts of what has happened that has given rise to your complaint. I don't want to sit here and say to you that there's such thing as a perfect grievance, but what there is such thing as a clear, succinct, evidential grievance complaint. And I had to learn it. I remember I was working in a particular organisation when I was a bit younger, and I had to raise a grievance complaint because a manager told me I was a fucking idiot. Yeah, you heard me. And I think it was because I created a paper jam in the printer. I was still quite young, huh? And this printer, you know, I'd come out of school, I'm using this printer. This printer was huge to me. I didn't know. And I asked my manager to help me because that was the only person that was available. And she called me a fucking idiot. So when I did my grievance complaint, rather than deal with the fact that she had called me a fucking idiot, which is a breach of their policy in terms of treating people with respect and dignity, I said that it made me angry and it made me think that I didn't want to be in the job anymore, and it made me want to, you know, give it all up. That's all I was concentrating on, my emotions, rather than sticking to the facts. And then saying, as a result of my manager's behaviour, it compromised my integrity, it made me uncomfortable, it gave me anxiety, and it rendered me unable to perform my duties because I felt like I was under the bullying gaze of my boss. Now that is a very, very different paragraph to I wanted to have a breakdown, I wanted to do this, I wanted to do that. Because those things that you wanted to do are legitimate, but you've got to remember it's about the way you frame things. We have an episode about framing. It's the way you frame things. You can still say the same thing. Strip the emotion and stick to the facts. To further support this young lady, I sent her some voice notes because it was just easier at some points to send her some voice notes. And I was really hard on her. I'm not going to lie to you. I was hard on her and she really took it. She took it in her stride. She knew that it was coming from a positive place. I recognise that I can't pander to her emotions. And I said, listen, your emotions are valid. I will always see them as valid. I know they are because I see myself in you. I understand. But I have to be hard on you because I can't hold your hand and walk into the room with these sea of white people that are going to basically be calling you a liar. I'm not going to be there. You're going to have to find the courage to do this because you're going to be confronted by the HR person and every person who has failed you up until the point in which you've raised this grievance. And it's going to take a fearless courage for you to sit in front of these people and know that you still have to go to work and still work with these people. So it's better that I'm hard on you now to prepare you for the journey that you're about to go on. Because this is not a sit down, let's talk about it, informal conversation. We're past that now. We're now at the point in which we have to fight for your job because your job has been advertised. So I put it to you that if you do not submit this grievance on Monday, you'll be sacked by Friday. Facts. Listen, when white people are getting ready to constructively dismiss you, they don't waste time. When these white people are getting ready to manage you out, they don't waste time. Some of these organisations have already started building their burn folder against you. Listen, some places, when they're getting ready to manage you out, that email that you sent by mistake, that was accepted as a mistake, will suddenly find its way in your performance review. You've got to understand how these people work. I sit here recording, telling you this. I know how to navigate the world of work successfully. I've been through a lot. I've seen too much. What I have shared with you in each podcast episode is just a fraction of what I have seen. Because you guys are all growing up with social media. I didn't grow up with that. you guys, some of you are aware of your employment rights. When I was growing up, I believed in it, everything is fair and justice. I believed in all of that fallacy. The world of work did me so dirty several times over. I have scars, I've got battle scars. Until I had no choice but to learn by studying the people that have created these constructs that benefit them. I can now sit at work and tell you what's going to happen before it happens, and it will happen exactly like that. People who have worked with me will tell you. They'll be telling me, oh my God, did you know? I was like, of course I saw it. Or I'll be telling them this. Or some, at work, people that you have already used your discernment and you know that they are, solid people to work with, solid colleagues. Yeah, things will happen. I'll say, yeah, it's like that. So nothing actually surprises me. What does upset me is that each and every week I pour my heart out for every episode. I pour it out. And I feel as though the work is very far from over. Because when this young lady approached me, and yes, I was annoyed that she doesn't have a burn folder. I was annoyed that she'd left it so late to reach out to me. But she was a reminder to me that the Toya Talks journey hasn't actually hit where it's supposed to hit yet. I've still got work to do. I've got a lot of work to do. Because I need to reach people before it becomes critical in their careers. Before you get to a point like this young lady where they advertise your job 6 hours after they've told you that you're having a performance review and they're considering demotion. I need to get to you at the point in which your boss is moving mad from the jump, early days. Early. This young lady is a reminder to me that I've got a lot of work to do with Toya Talks to get it to people. Because there's so many people who do not even know that this podcast exists. And that tells me I need to work harder. I need to work harder. And I'm annoyed. I'm so annoyed because I'm like, what else can I do to get this podcast out there? Because this, I know, is transforming the careers of black women. It's transforming lives. I know it is. Because I'm told, you guys tell me all the time. You guys tell me all the time how you have used the podcast. I've shared with you episodes where people have written in saying how they've used the podcast. So I know that I'm getting out there, but I'm not getting out there enough. So I've now reviewed, and I think I mentioned it on my Instagram stories, what else I need to do to get the awareness around this podcast. And I think one of the things I need to do is I need to come into your workplaces. 100%. 100%. I need to sometimes work from the inside as well. So I do have a couple of meetings with some CEOs of companies who have reached out to me. One came from a recommendation of a podcast listener, a fellow black queen who I'm so grateful for. And a couple of others have come from word of mouth, where they understand these organisations that they need to work on their racial equality. It wasn't enough that last summer they all put out press releases about Black Lives Matter, but the actual black lives of your staff, you haven't actually treated as if they're Black Lives Matter because you continue to harass, bully, gaslight and racially discriminate against us. There's some organisations, they have no choice. They have to now find me or a company, which I hope is going to be a black woman like myself, to come in and educate these white constructs. Because you cannot be preaching equality, but from the CEO down to your shareholders, not one of them is a black person. I'm not talking about ethnic minorities. You know, I hate the word ethnic minority, but you know what I mean. They don't actually reflect the staff they hire. And then you want to sit there and tell me that you believe in racial equality and here's your racial equality charter. That's bullshit. So I'm going into these organisations, I'm having consultations, and I'm saying, no, you need a roadmap. You need to start with human resources and how you hire. And are you actually hiring black people? Are you doing that? Are you hiring black women? What does your recruitment process look like? What does equality mean to your human resources team? What does that look like? And when you hire black women, and I'm talking specifically about black women here and black people here, what do you do to include them? What does inclusivity look like? How are we investing in the people that you are recruiting and hiring, these black women? How are you investing in them? Are you giving them additional training? Are you giving them collaborative performance reviews to help them grow? How are you investing in those people so that you can retain them and have their job loyalty, whereby they grow in the organisation and they stay? What does racial equality look like in your organisation? How do people talk and relate to black people? Do you have that particular woman in your office that is so obsessed with black hair, constantly interrogates the black queen that you've hired about her personal appearance? How does your workplace interact with black women, with black people? What is an acceptable... What in your organisation, what do you consider is acceptable about how you treat black women? What does progression look like? These are all the things. I am into the roadmap. I do the initial consultation and I say to them, this is not enough. This is just a consultation. What are you doing? You need to do more. What does your Black Lives Matter charter say? Do you have one? Why don't you have one? Listen, I've spoken to a CEO where they will tell me about equality and start talking about the LGBTQIA community. And I'm like, that's great. But there are other communities that are considered minorities too. What are you doing to invest in and address these other communities? Like the black community, what are you doing? You've got the investment for other minorities, but not for the black community. That's rooted in racism. These are the conversations I'm having with CEOs. There's one young lady, and she recommended me by word of mouth, an organisation that she used to work with a few years ago. And she did it anonymously. And the CEO reached out to me and said, I got an email anonymously about you and I've been listening to your podcast, followed you on your website, and what you're doing is remarkable because you're causing me to think about my innate prejudices and not realise that they're manifesting in the way I manage my organisation and therefore the way I manage senior management and hire senior management. And I never thought of it before, but when it comes to senior management, I've never considered them to be anything other than what looks like me, who is a white man. He said that to me. And you know what I said to him? I respect your honesty, but I don't respect your prejudice because you're prejudiced against women that look like me. I said it to him straight. So I'll be having a Zoom call with him and all his shareholders. Yeah, bunch of white men. I'm going to be talking to them about racial equality and what that actually means, and Black Lives Matter. And done my due diligence. I've asked them for their Black Lives Matter charter and their press release. They're so excited to send it to me. I said, yeah, we're going to talk about it. So I'm going into your organisation because I'm sick and tired of seeing the trauma we're constantly being confronted with every day. And whilst there is breath in my body, I will continue to deliver a podcast to you. Why I have the strength, I will do it. But I'm going to need you guys to meet me halfway. I'm going to need you to truly commit to the journey of this podcast. If you are a new listener, welcome. You are most welcome. If you do not want to start from the beginning, fair enough. Start somewhere, please. And make sure you finish each and every episode. Because I promise you, you will learn something new, you will take something away, and you will add value to your life and your career. Because ultimately, not everybody can be a content creator. Not everybody can be a model. Not everybody can be a TikToker. Some of us have to go into work. And some of us work in different ways. So for me, I'm a contractor. I work for my own limited company and I work for organisations. So I work for my limited company and they basically contract my services through my limited company to work for them. Some people are on fixed term contracts. Some people are perm. Some people are part-time. But we still have to interact in work structures. And therefore, you need to develop the life skill. The life skills required to navigate the world of work strategically. I don't use words like surviving the workplace. Like sometimes I'm on Clubhouse and I hear people talk about it and I'm like, it's not about surviving. It's about being strategic about how you navigate, how you work with people who create structures for their own progression and not yours. It's about how you negotiate more money. It's about how you deal with workplace conflicts, because we're not taught that. We're taught that we are the cause of the conflict, when some of us are not even involved. We are nowhere near it. But constructs create work environments that center us in their conflict so they can use us as a scapegoat. Take that to church. So for me, this young lady is amazing, and I have to give her flowers, because it does take a courage to admit you need help, and I recognize that. And I'm just so upset that I can't morph into her body and take care of this for her. And I hope that the information I've given her, the markup, this episode, and the voice notes that I've sent her will help and support her. And I said, it's going to be difficult. You're going to have difficult times, but what you're not going to do is break down in front of them. What you're not going to do is give them what they want, because ultimately you need to get a mortgage. This is what you want. You told me that's what you want. I said, but let me ask you, aside from the mortgage, what is the outcome that you're looking for with this grievance? What do you want? She says, Toya, I don't want to be demoted. I want to be on the same money, same title. I want to keep my job because I need to get my mortgage. Now, irrespective of what I think, that's what she wants. And I have to respect that, and I do. I recognise that some of us have to stay in unhealthy work environments because we have to pay the bills at the end of the day. Some of us, like this young lady, her motive is her mortgage. Some people just can't afford to not be working. But you are entitled to have a healthy work environment. And let me just say this. I know a lot of the fear is that if you complain, you'll be sacked. But that's not the reality. That's not how workplaces work. Not here in the UK, and not generally. You know, it's almost like workplaces are reliant on our ignorance. Because as black people, we've been oppressed for so long that some of us still operate in that oppression. Let me give you an example. If some of us already are fearful of making complaints, as a response, you do not complain. That means you are complicit in your own oppression. You're oppressing yourself by silencing yourself and not speaking up about an injustice that you are going through out of fear. I get it, I understand it, but you are also being complicit in your oppression in the workplace then. And fear has led this young lady to a point now where she's left it so far down the line to involve me because of fear. And what I love about her honesty, and she says, Toya, I need to be fearless. I says, yes, and I need you to show up for yourself. You have to show up for yourself. Because no one is going to show up for you more than you. Not me, nobody. Because you still have to have the courage to wake up in the morning and go to that workplace, showing up for yourself. You still have to draft this a grievance and hand it in, showing up for yourself. You still have to be able to defend yourself with your burn folder, showing up for yourself. Let's normalise showing up for ourselves. Let's normalise speaking up. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that when you speak up, you don't make yourself a target. But what is the alternative? Continue to be depressed and oppressed? What is the alternative? Continue to accept bottom barrel behaviour from managers who should know better on the basis of them throwing their weight around, their seniority around, just to show you who is boss. What kind of existence is that where the thought of work makes your stomach turn knots? The fear of work will have your heart beating at a rate that you cannot even contain yourself. You're out of breath. You're restless, sleepless nights. I know it because I've been through it. What's the alternative? So my thing is, if that's what you're suffering now, speaking up, you might as well then. Because you're still going through it. Do you understand? You may as well. Organisations need you to be oppressed to control you. They need you to be oppressed to control you. Because if they can control you, then you do as they want, as they say. And they get to do what they want with you. They can demote you, advertise your job. You have to get to a point where you do not allow fear to take over. Because once you allow fear to take over, you've basically given your managers and your organisations the green light to continue with their deplorable behaviour, to continue to make you feel as though you're worthless and you're worth more. You are worth standing up for yourself. You're worth using the system to cover yourself. But first and foremost, let us just accept a reality here. Let's accept a couple of realities. When you go into organisations and they hire you, actually, talk about it quite abstract. When I go into organisations, they hire me, whether it's as a consultant, whatever the contracting route is. I understand that at some point during this employment, one of these people that have hired me, one of these people who have introduced themselves to me on their first day, at some point, I may have to buck you. I may have to defend myself to keep my job. That's how I walk into an organisation. At any one time, all these nice people, some of these people can turn my enemies real quick, especially the senior ones. So what do? I create my burn folder from day one. That's what I do. I choose myself. I choose to cover myself from day one. Because your first day is always the nicest, isn't it, when you start work? It's the easiest because no one knows who you are really, so you don't get that many emails. You can use the I'm new card for as long as possible, or as long as you're still considered new. You get certain passes. But at the end of the day, these same people that were so lovely to you on your first day, first week, first month will turn on you pretty quickly if they feel that you're not giving them what they want, or if they feel that you're an obstacle, a threat, if they feel as though you are not complying to their demands, if they feel that they just can bully you because of their position. This is why I tell you guys from day one you need to do your due diligence. Because one thing about white people, the blueprint doesn't change. I've told you, it doesn't change. And it's not just white people, non-black people who choose violence, their behaviour, their blueprint doesn't change. They usually do the same things in different ways in organisations. We exist in a society that picks black women last. We exist in a society where they tell us through the media, social media, adverts, that they don't see us. They see us as a inconvenience. Don't you remember, was it last year when they had the Christmas advert and they had a black family on them? I think it's either M&S or Sainsbury's, and there was absolute uproar in the media. You know why? Because they don't want to see us. They think seeing black people, a black family, is not reflective of society. But they want us to see them as a reflection of society. Do we not live in the same society? So if on that level, they don't want to see us, what more these organisations that treat us like we ain't shit? What more these organisations that gaslight us when you make a complaint, or maybe even ignore a complaint? The Queen's courtiers banned coloured immigrants or foreigners from serving in clerical roles in the royal household until at least the late 1960s. They reveal how in 1968, the Queen's chief financial manager informed civil servants that it was not, in fact, the practice to appoint coloured immigrants or foreigners to clerical roles in the royal household, although they were permitted to work as domestic servants. It is unclear when the practice ended. Buckingham Palace refused to answer questions about the ban and when it was revoked. It said its records showed people from ethnic minority backgrounds being employed in the 1990s. It added that before that decade, it did not keep records of the racial backgrounds of employees. Yeah. And that's from the Guardian newspaper. So let's get this correct. A recent race equality report came out and said that there's no racism in the UK. Do you remember? Yep. Recently, I'm talking about a couple of months ago. But you had a monarchy that had a rule, had a policy not to hire, well, they say coloured, let's be honest, black or ethnic minorities or foreigners in clerical positions, but we're enough to be their servants. The rule didn't apply if you want us to be your servants. The fabric of this society is intrinsically racist. It is embedded into the fabric of this society to be institutionally racist, right up to the monarchy, all the way to number 10 Downing Street, right up to the house. This whole society is predicated on racism. So if that is the case, why do you think your workplaces aren't? Why? Why? Listen, when Prince Philip died, the tears that were cried in our workplace, I was shocked. We had a colleague that died of COVID last year. I didn't even see the level of tears that I saw for. And you know why? Prince Philip is a white man. The lady that died last year of COVID in the workplace was a black woman. This country is predicated. It's the genesis of this country is racism. So this report, they're saying there's no racism and they compare themselves to the States. It's all bullshit. It's all smoke and mirrors. So if you know you exist in a society that is built on racism, that the monarchy would have a policy to not hire black or ethnic minorities, then your workplaces are what? A reflection of the society we live in? Tick! So the sooner you get to a point of understanding that when you walk into these organizations, these are not your friends. These are people brought together by employment. These are people you work with. So you work there to get paid, navigate, make money, elevate, maybe get promoted. Deal with your career like a project. So that these organizations don't deal with you in a deplorable manner. All these workplaces don't toss you aside like a used rag. You have to get to a point of understanding that every day you are fighting for your job. It's just about the degree in which you're doing it. So some days you may not feel like you're fighting for your job. Degree. And there's other days that you have to because a colleague has basically told you ain't shit, made your life hell, bullied you. We need to start using the words micro and macro aggressions. Start making that part of your vocabulary when you're dealing with these people, you know. Start. One thing about white people, they hate to be accused of being racist, but they will behave racist. I don't understand. They'll say things that are racist. They'll behave in a racial manner, but they don't want to be called racist. Do you know why? Because this society and how we live buries their head in the sand. They bury their head in the sand, or they bury their head in the British Museum. These people will standardly tell you that the things in the British Museum was loaned to them, but they won't tell you how they pillaged, killed, raped, and stole to put some of the stuff in there. They won't tell you that bit. They'll say, oh, and okay, so if we lent it to you, we're asking for it back. Why will you not give it back to us? Nigeria's asking for their own. Give it back to them. Ownership. White people have been raised in privilege to think they own everything and everyone. That's why when we defend ourselves, they don't understand where it comes from. They see us defending ourselves as aggressive. You know why? Because it's the opposite of accepting oppression. It's to defend yourself. Raising a grievance complaint is how you defend yourself and how you invoke the policies and the rules that they have created. Stop looking for white people to empathize with you and the traumas that you have experienced by their hands in the workplace. Stop looking for that. Because if they cared, they wouldn't put you through it in the first place. So start navigating from a space of covering, burn folder setup, feedback folder setup, every meeting with a manager, your line manager, summary email. Thank you. Hi, Deborah. Thank you for our meeting earlier where we discussed XYZ. We have concluded XYZ. I did let you know that I was unhappy with XYZ. However, we have agreed to XYZ. Full stop. Whether they come back to you or not, if they come back to you, you don't have to go back to them. It's not every email that you receive you must respond to. You just need an audit trail of a sequence of events. That's it. That's all you need. The last episode, whistleblower. Dominic Cummings chose violence the day he got there because he knew what these people are about. He's not mad. This is a man that was Boris Johnson's right-hand man. He went in there and he started creating his burn folder. When he left, he said, no, I'm not going by the back door. I'll go by the front door. He didn't care. He took his box. He walked out the front door. Little did any of them know that he had a phone full of evidence. His burn folder was in that box. And it's the same burn folder he's using to cover himself. This man has gone as far. He's got his own blog. Dominic Cummings has a blog. If you piss him off the wrong way, he will start doing leaking his information. He will just drop it there. Bossa. Why do you think Boris and the rest of them, they ain't gonna buck him? They are not gonna step on him because they don't know what he has. And even if they don't, the ones that they know he has, they're absolutely afraid and petrified. My man said, you're not gonna use me like fried rice. Oh, no. Instead of you to learn from how white people deal with each other, instead of you to learn how white people... Listen, white people will tell us we are barbaric, we're this. But violence is what they have introduced in every type of situation, historically. When there is a problem, they choose violence. Start boxing clever and shine your eyes. That's what I'm going to say to you. So our beautiful black queen, our sister, I've given her the advice. I've marked up her grievance. I've given the support. I've told her if you need any more advice, you just have to reach out to me. And I'm prepared to support her and hold her hand through this. But she has to show up and walk this path, because this is not going to be the first time that she's going to have to fight for her job. It's not going to be the first time that she is going to have to show up for herself. And I hope that she keeps me informed. I did say to her, keep me updated. And I really do hope that this works out for her. I also want to reiterate that, when I say to people, what outcome do you want? Some people, they say to me, Toya, I just want to get paid out and I will leave. I want a reference. I want to get paid out a lump sum and I want to leave. Some people are like, what, Toya, I just want to wreak havoc. And that's equally as fine. I'm not going to judge you. And this young lady, her focus is her mortgage, and that's fine. I think also I always say to people, it's also about knowing when a situation's intolerable or unworkable, and sometimes knowing when to walk away. But it's not for me to tell you when to walk away unless you actually ask me. I'm not going to tell you because you have the shoe, so you know where it hurts. You are the one that has to turn up to that office, so you know what you can deal with and what you can't. All I will ever do is make sure that I support you in achieving what it is you want to get out of this organisation. That's what I'm going to try and do. I also want to say as well, as I read the dilemma, she did say that, Toya, I really want your help, and she did say, I can pay you. And I've reiterated, and I'll say it here again. I will help people as much as I can through the dilemmas. And, I will always point you to the right episodes, if it's a specific issue that I've covered. But I feel as though I'm not doing this podcast or platform for the money. That's not what it is. Because let's really be honest, I invest a lot more financially into the podcast, but I get out a lot out of it that I'm feeding into my community. I'm sharing my experiences and giving fellow black women the tools to navigate. That to me feeds my soul. It feeds me because it reaffirms that everything I have ever been through was for this moment right here. It was for this platform right here. I was building a platform through my own trauma and experiences so that other people can learn and be better than me. And the reward is hearing your testimonies or your testimonials of how you've used the podcast and your success stories and your learning lessons. That means more to me, because my thing is, if you can then pass that knowledge to another black woman, if you can recommend my podcast to another black woman, that is how the platform grows. That's how awareness is spread. And that is how we collectively as black women enhance our level, because we deserve success. We deserve more than what society is willing to give us. Right, let's move on to the next dilemma. The next heading in this dilemma is called Ageism as a Young Professional Manager. Hi Toya, I'm so glad that I found your podcast about a month or so ago. Right now, I'm catching up on all the previous episodes. I know you have discussed choosing your battles in the workplace and microaggressions. Millennials, myself included, are climbing up the ranks faster than ever before and getting into management positions. Amen. Personally, I've experienced microaggressions and ageism from older black women in the workplace, as I work for a predominantly black organisation. If you have not already, can you do an episode talking about ageism in the workplace and or handling black co-workers? I appreciate your time with this. Please continue doing God's work. Kind regards. So first and foremost, I will say that I love reading this. I love hearing about, millennials really excelling to management positions faster than I've ever seen it before, and I agree with you 110%. I have spoken about black co-workers, but I haven't really spoken about ageism. It's been pervasive, but I haven't touched on it as a dedicated episode. So I'm going to do that. I will do it probably in July. I'm going to talk about ageism, and also as well, I've suffered ageism at work, but it has been like from other black women in a toxic way, insofar as I think some people that I've worked with before, it's them being confronted with maybe opportunities that they never kind of took, and they see me taking those opportunities, and sometimes rather than encouraging me, they put me down. And I did speak about when I worked for Hackney Council, there was this lady, I did mention it, I can't remember what episode it was, but I did talk about it, how basically she tried to manipulate me into not moving on from Hackney, and then made my life a living hell when I resigned. And I had I had a month or two, and she made my life hell. A fellow black woman that should be encouraging me to progress and encouraging me to, want more, but she was horrible. But I'll save that for a podcast episode. There's actually 2 examples of ageism, but also I think it's a fair point. I think millennials that are kind of shooting up the career ladder and really doing really well for themselves, the microaggressions are very polarized, because it is based on your age. Because I think that when we work with fellow black women, and actually I don't think it's just black women, it is other races. They judge us on our experience based on our age, and if you've got a baby face, then you can't have any experience whatsoever, which is absolutely fucking ridiculous, isn't it? But yes, I will do an episode about that. So please keep listening. In July, I'll probably do that. I'll actually make a note of it now, because you know me, a creative, always got my pen and paper. So I'll do an episode on ageism. And congratulations and well done. I love the fearlessness of our millennials that we have, because they have learned from us. They are unwilling to accept trash and bullshit. They are vocal. They are fearless. They are present, and they show up as themselves. But equally, there is an uncertainty and nervousness in being able to accelerate and, being promoted quite earlier on, because they're not still given the skills to navigate the micro and macroaggressions and navigate the sometimes surprising encounters with colleagues who some of these millennials wouldn't expect them to behave in certain ways. And again, all like workplace, schools and education, the education system doesn't teach you how to navigate the world of work, especially as black women, and it certainly doesn't teach you how to hold on to jobs and how to be strategic. It doesn't teach you the survival life skills needed to navigate the world of work. So I'm really, really happy that you found the podcast. Please share with your fellow millennials, and I will definitely be discussing ageism. Very fair point. And I'm always really happy to hear from a new listener. Now moving on to the next dilemma. Subject line is a massive thank you. Hi Toya, I'm sure you get these letters all the time, but I wanted to say a huge thank you for your platform, openness and amazing advice helping this black woman navigate the world of work. I first downloaded your negotiation masterclass last year, and with that was able to negotiate a pay rise at my current job and change in job responsibilities. I then downloaded your CV masterclass and interview masterclass. With it, I was able to make my way through a tough round of interviews and secure a new job. I made sure to negotiate my offer. This all led to a £12,000 pay increase. This is most money I've ever been paid in my life. So they offered her a role and she negotiated an additional £12,000. Wow. Thank you again for all that you do. I'm about to listen to your podcast and start planning my first 60 days in the role. You truly have a God-given gift, Toya. Keep rising, making my way to be a six-figure babe. Oh, congratulations. I'm so proud of you. Honestly, I don't take for granted you guys reaching out to me and sharing with me how the platform and the masterclasses have really supported you, but more importantly, giving you the tools to be able to, do your CV and get your foot in the door, get the interviews, and the interview masterclass teaching you about interviews and the tricks of interviews and how to get through them, and then being able to negotiate. Because I think that's where, again, the system is oppressive, right? Whereby we are made to feel, either through our parents or just society, that we should be grateful, right? And that gratefulness is rooted in oppression, where you just are oppressed from actually, saying what you want or knowing how to say what you want without fear of rescinding a job offer. So to be able to give you guys a platform and the tools through the masterclasses, honestly, I'll be completely honest with you. The masterclasses have done so well, and I know that because of the testimonials I get. But I know they've done well because I am sharing with you what I do. I'm sharing with you how I negotiate. I've told you guys several times, every single contract I've always negotiated and I get what I want. Every single time. Every single time. The CV Masterclass is amazing because, again, I put you at the forefront of your career. I'm not going to sit there and do a masterclass where I redo your CV for you. I'm not going to do that because this is your career. I can't sit here and tell you guys to project manage your career and then I'm the one that's project managing your CV. No. What I will do is give you the tools. Of course I will. I'll give you the templates. So when you buy the CV Masterclass, after you watch it, you're able to ask me for the templates. You email me, or my assistant picks up the email. You say, Toya, here's my my order ID. Can I have templates? I give you templates so that you're not starting from scratch. And I teach you how to build your CV and what recruiters are looking for, how to structure it, how to put the sentences and paragraphs together. I teach you that because I know that project managing your career starts from the CV. It does. It starts from the experience and how you translate that experience into your CV. Then you get the offer. Then you get an invite to interview. Again, I've got a masterclass for that. Then you're offered the job. I've got a masterclass for that. And listen, this is reality that we're living in. Not every job that you go for, you're going to get. But I always say to you, what did you learn from that interview? What could you have improved on? What did you do wrong? What surprised you about what you learned about yourself in the interview in which you wasn't offered the job? This is how you structure your career. This is how you build your career. I always encourage people to do interviews, whether you're actively looking for a role or not. Why? Because you learn something about yourself in an interview. I had a friend and he hadn't interviewed for over 2.5 years. I said, interview. Oh, I'm not ready to move jobs. I said, no problem. Interview. Go. He was so confident after his first interview. He says, you know what, Toya? I don't really want to move jobs, but I'm going to continue to interview because, number one, I'm building my confidence. But number two, when I am ready to look for a job, I've already got the practice in. And that's how it goes. Even me. Listen, I'm happy with my contracts, you know. I'm happy with them. I'm still interviewing. Yes, because even me, a seasoned professional, doesn't know everything. Sometimes you don't think I've got brain freeze. I'm dyslexic. People with dyslexia often suffer from brain freeze. How do I recover from my brain freeze? Now we're in a remote space. Some of us are still remote working by the grace of God. Me, I'm a remote worker forever and ever. Amen. I've got post-it notes. I have 2 post-it notes to deal with my brain freezes. Yeah. How does my personality come across? Because I am in an interview, I'm actually really warm, right? And I have a good sense of humour. If you follow me on social media, you'll know that anyway. And I allow that to come through because I want my interviewers to feel comfortable enough to also give me a bly if I do have my brain freeze. And then how do I recover? How do I make my brain freezes work for me? So actually, when they're thinking about me, they're not thinking about the brain freeze. They're thinking about how much of an amazing candidate I am, how much of a great fit and asset I'd be to the team. And more importantly, what they learn about me in the interview that makes them feel that they need me. Ha, girl. You need to get the masterclasses available on the toyatalks.com website. Stop delaying. Some of you have been oohing and ahhing about the masterclass while we have people here testifying of how great the masterclasses are, and you've got me sitting here telling you I've poured my experiences and everything into the masterclass. Come on, stop messing around. Go into the website and get the masterclass. Right, let's move on to the next email. Actually, this was an email. It's a DM. Let me read it to you. Hi Toya, I'm probably one of your biggest number 1 fans. I'm sure you get that a lot. From listening to your podcast, which I absolutely love, I have been able to get the thick skin and confidence to negotiate my current permanent work contract to become a flexible, remote working international contract. Sorry, can you deep that? Let's repeat that. Run it back for the people at the back. From listening to your podcasts, which I absolutely love, I have been able to get the thick skin and confidence to negotiate my current permanent work contract to become a flexible, remote working international contract. That's how you do it, girl. Which has afforded me the ability to work remotely in Zanzibar and Dubai. Hey, Jesus is Lord. Come and see. I just want to thank you for your honesty and efforts in your podcast. You are making a substantial impact in a lot of Black women's career paths. You fully deserve the recognition and praise for what you are doing, 100%. I knew you were a serious human when you started talking about listening to your ancestors. They are definitely using you to make a substantial impact. You have impacted my life and career path. I see you as an older sister now. And that's why I do what I do. This is the reason why the podcast is here. This is the reason why Toya Talks was created, because I know for a fact that they deliberately do not give us the life skills required to navigate work, because in effect, you're going to be asking them to teach us how to navigate their racist white structures, which they never admit as racist or prejudicial or unfair. They're not going to do that. And when I hear testimonials like this, so let's get this right. This young lady, in accessing the podcast, I'm sure the negotiation masterclass, because she says she learned how to negotiate. Yeah, we've got it from the masterclass. Has single-handedly gone from a permanent contract to negotiating a flexible contract that is remote working and remote working international, which means she can work for a UK company and be anywhere in the world remotely, or a US company anywhere in the world. And that is the goal. Freedom. Freedom is the goal, isn't it? Hell, God will bless this young lady. God will bless this young lady for me, because, you know, I am, whenever I am unsure of anything, or whenever I, you know, sometimes you think, could I do more? My ancestors will always use angels, living angels, to come to me, because I don't prompt this. Do you understand? As much as I would love for people to come and share with me, at the end of the day, people have lives, huh? But when people unprompted testify of how they've used the platform, honestly, it feeds my existence, because it tells me that not only am I walking in my journey and purpose and destiny, but it reinforces that I'm doing the Lord's work. This is the reason why I have been through hell in the world of work, and that in the last 10 years has been transformational in my career. Where I am in my career is the best I have ever been in my career, because I learned the lessons. I navigate very, very well. Imagine navigating so well that your boss calls you to say, yeah, the management board meeting, could you do it? Could you cover me? I trust you to do it. You'll be fine if you've got any questions. A management, I'm not sitting on her level. She's a director. I'm not a director. I'm senior, very senior, but I'm not a director. Come on. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. This young lady should be really, really proud of herself. You've done amazing. So we have our last but not least dilemma, and this looks like a long one, so hopefully my dyslexia will give me some grace and allow me to get through this without any interruptions or tripping up on my words, and if I do, just please have patience with me. Let's go. So we are calling this employment issues. Good afternoon, Toya. Hope you are well. Just before I get started, I wanted to say this will be a long email, so I don't want you to read this when you are busy. Sorry for my inconvenience, but I really need your advice. I DM'd on Twitter a couple of weeks briefly explaining my situation, and she's given me her Twitter handle, but I can't remember. I get a lot of messages, so I would always prefer people to send their dilemmas to hello@toyatalks.com. For context purposes, whilst I was in uni, I got a job part-time in Tesco's in 2018, which would be a job to last until I started in my field working full-time, or if I decided to complete my master's. So during my employment in Tesco's and started in 2018, I worked in the clothing department and had a black Jamaican manager. She seemed nice until 2 months ago. 2 months after I started working, she began calling me for chats about my productivity, on multiple occasions calling me slow, and I needed to pick up the pace. This was surprising to me because I never thought or believed I was slow in my head. I'm working as quick as possible. November 2019, whilst doing a range change with my boss and another colleague, out of nowhere, a fixture from metal fixture fell out when they got someone to fix it back on. After 5 minutes, it fell out again, directly landing on my right arm and shoulder. My manager told me to get some frozen peas and sit down in the canteen. Bear in mind, my manager witnessed it and didn't follow correct procedure. After 10 minutes, she told me to come out and work with my left hand whilst there was ice on it on my right arm. I didn't process everything until a year later. So whilst I was working, I knew I had to log it to my duty manager. So I went to the office, told my manager. She told me to pick up the phone and ring them myself. I was not even offered a seating. So that's what I did, reported it. When making a claim recently, I found out it was illegal for me to even log my own injury, but I was doing what I was told. I continued on working, and just before I went home, my manager said, I hope you won't make a claim against Tesco's, and went home. I couldn't believe what came out of her mouth, but it's a way, in a way, led me to being silenced. From November, I was still expected to work as normal and was being put on tills for long periods of time. They would say it's only for 10 to 30 minutes. Then next thing you know, it's 3+ hours a time, a break or nothing. Around January to February, it got worse, and the pain and duration would increase each day until medical attention in March, and I began taking codeine. In April, still no improvement, so I increased dosage. Wow. Well, my dear, where there's blame, there's a claim. Anyway, let's read on. May, Still no changes. So my doctor didn't want me to get signed off, so wrote adjustments for work. But who's your doctor to tell you that he doesn't want to sign you off if you need to be signed off? Jesus. My manager told me the note wasn't good enough, so I went back to my doctors and they wrote clear occupational health assessment for me. I told my manager I needed a referral to the occupational health and she said she'd sort it out. July, nothing. I asked admin and she said she don't know how to refer someone and needed to discuss with the store manager. August, still nothing. But during this time, the heat's broken down, so it was I don't understand this. I don't understand what you're writing here. Oh, God. As a result of this, my back got extremely... Okay. All right. So, whilst being signed off, I realised the negligence of my employers and began opening claims for personal injury and repetitive strain injury with the solicitors provided by the union. From September till now, I have been harassed and dehumanised by Tesco in every way, shape and form. I have monthly meetings to discuss my health, which I thought was normal, but after asking colleagues who have been off for shielding and surgeries, they have not had one. Wellness meetings and no clue what they are. They repeatedly ask me same questions every single meeting, which I have the same reply. They only referred me to occupational health in November, which took 2 days for me to receive an appointment. Okay, I'm not going to read all of this. This is... Right, let's get here. Honestly, Toya, I have no clue what my next move is. I wanted to wait till I had a meeting with all the senior managers to explain how poorly I was treated, but I see no point. I cannot pursue any more cases as I have decided I already have 2 open cases already, and I could stand to lose everything if I open another claim. I have already decided I'm leaving. I'm just not sure when or how I'll do it. Since being off, I have realised I will never be able to work for someone else. I'm traumatised and have to deal with the mental effects of the events over the last year. I recently started a business in which I'd love to send my organic hair oils to you and see how it works for you. I do not want any promotions as of now. I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting till I'm 100% better before I put all my energy to my business. And she's given her Instagram handle. Thank you for your podcast. They really helped me during my tribulations, and a big congratulations on your engagement. Wishing you all the best. Sorry for the grammar mistakes and misspellings. No, it's fine. But I guess just bear in mind I'm dyslexic, so... Okay. Oh, God. This is really sad. Do you know what? Do you know what I will say? I'll say that I think if I was to say to you, what do you want? You've already said that you want to leave and you don't want to be there anymore. So I don't think you have much to lose if that is the decision you've made. I do think that you need to do a formal grievance complaint. And I do think that it depends how far you want to take this, because this is very Twitter worthy, if you ask me. But I will say that you need to do something. And I think that you need to do a formal grievance complaint about their negligence, because it's negligence. I need you to understand that at work, irrespective of where you work, who you work for, how big or how small the organisation, every employer owes an employee a duty of care. And the duty of care was not enforced here. And as a result, they have actually actively contributed to the negligence by continuously harassing you, also keeping you at work and not reporting the incident when it happened. I'm actually surprised that your trade union representative hasn't actually made a formal complaint on your behalf, but am I surprised? Really? Not really, because I tend to find that you get some trade union representatives that are absolutely fantastic and the other ones are ghastly. I will say to you that this is a difficult one, because there is a bit here where you say, so this was officially escalated at short notice meeting on Saturday. Yeah, so they've really mistreated you, and I think that you need to do a formal complaint, and I'd do it too. I'd copy in the head. You must have a regional human resources, like a head of HR. It needs to go to that person. And I think that you need to engage a solicitor on no win, no fee. Yeah, this is where no win, no fee works, and I'll tell you why. Because there is a claim here. And any solicitor in their right mind will take this case on a no-win, no-fee basis, because that you are going to win. I hope you've got a burn folder and you've got all your dates and times of things that have happened, and you've kept a log of these meetings that seem to be just applicable to you and nobody else who's been shilled in. If you are interested in no-win, no-fee claim lawyers, I know a couple of them, so please reach out to me and I can give you the lawyer's details. But I feel like this is what I mean, and this is what I said earlier on in the podcast. I feel like sometimes, and I get it, this is a very traumatic event, and you're not going to think of anything other than the situation you're in and trying to rectify it. But this has been going on for over a year now. And it's so far gone, and now you're engaging with me, and I worry that it's too far down the line for me to actually really, really help you in the way that you need. I mean, you mentioned that you had an MRI scan and things like that. I mean, when a doctor, and this is the thing with doctors, and I said this on my Instagram, you have to be in charge. It's exhausting, isn't it? You have to be in charge of your medical care and making sure that you are getting what you need from the GP. A GP can't say to you, right, I'm not going to sign you off. If you need to be signed off, damn well tell the doctor they need to sign you off. Like, what is it about society that think that they can dehumanize us, i.e. remove us of any emotion, and tell us that we don't feel pain? And it's rooted in racism. It's rooted in medical racism. When you've had this traumatic event where you've suffered and sustained a significant injury, and a doctor would say, yeah, so I'm going to do a recommendation for in your workplace occupational health. It's bullshit, So yeah, that's what I would advise. I think this has gone as far as it can go. It needs to go to solicitors on a no-win, no-fee basis. And I think you need to sue the shit out of them. And I don't think there's a statute of limitation on your claim. I mean, it's only been a year, so I think you're well within... Well, there is a statute of limitation, but you're well within your rights to sue, even a year after. So I suggest that you get in contact with me, and I will email you and ask you to do the same, or to listen to this podcast episode. And hopefully this comes to you in good time, because this is sad. Oh, wow. I really hope that you will benefit from the dilemma sections of the Toya Talks podcast, and sometimes the dedicated episodes to dilemmas, because I think that a lot of you could learn a lot from other people's dilemmas and the advice that I give them in response to their dilemmas. And it's always heavy, a dilemma episode. There's always that one dilemma, I find anyway, that does rest quite heavy with me. And it is the last one that I read to you that rests heavy. So I'm going to write to her personally. But yeah, I wanted to say thank you so much for rocking with me, and thank you so much for reaching out to me when you didn't get a podcast episode last week, and thank you so much for also kind of respecting my space and giving me the grace to give myself grace. I think we're so hard on ourselves, aren't we? Because we have to be, because things are not necessarily stacked in our favour, so we're constantly on this constant wheel or cycle is probably a better word, of fighting for what we want. But sometimes it gets exhausting. Sometimes it's okay to say, actually, you know what, I've taken a lot on. Sometimes it's okay to say, oh, there's too much going on at work, I need a break. And we need to normalise that. So I'm leading by example. And I really, 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 really missed not uploading. It felt weird, like when I set up my mic and everything. It's only been a week and I was like, oh my God, where does this wire go again? It was just so weird. But I love delivering a podcast to you guys each and every Tuesday. And as a fellow black woman, I know how important it is for us to have these conversations. And I'm so grateful that I'm a intrinsic part of your Tuesdays, or whatever day you choose then to listen to a new episode. But either way, there is an expectation that a new episode will come and you guys are there willing to receive it. And I'm so happy to be in a situation or a position whereby I'm giving you guys the tools, and I'm giving you guys what you need to support you in your careers, in the world of work and in life. I know a lot of you have loved the relationship episode, so we've got more coming. Of course I have. I know some of you watched the aftermath of Blue Therapy. There is a reason why I've not recorded an episode that you was expecting today about Blue Therapy and the aftermath, but as the days progress, I'm sure you guys will become aware as to why I haven't. But I will actually record it, but I just didn't want to do it for this episode. Also as well, I want to reiterate to each and every one of you how amazing you all are. And I know that we go through really difficult situations in the world of work, and sometimes it feels like there's no light at the end of the tunnel, but no condition is permanent. No condition is permanent. And I'm here for you. The podcast is here for you, and the Toya Talks podcast was created for you. So the Toya Talks platform and podcast is 2 black women, for black women, about black women. I centre black women. In doing so, I hope that I'm creating a safe space for us to share as I teach, guide and educate black women how to navigate the world of work safely, and in turn highlight the path of our success. If you want to follow me on social media, my personal Instagram page is Toya_Washington. The Toya Talks Instagram page is Toya_Talks. Follow me on Snapchat, Toya Washington, all one word, or Clubhouse, Toya Washington, all one word, or I have a club on Clubhouse called Toya Talks. Of course, I'm on Instagram, Toya_W, and you can hashtag Toya Talks or Toya Talks podcast. And yeah, I'm going to see you guys next week. If you have a work-related dilemma or maybe just a life dilemma, email me at hello@toyatalks.com and we will address it here, discuss it on the Toya Talks podcast, and of course your anonymity will be protected. Right, I'm going to leave it there. And I'm going to thank you for joining me for Tuesday's episode of the Toya Talks podcast, and thank you for rocking with me, supporting the podcast and the platform. We have many more episodes to come, and I can't wait to deliver them to you. So until next week, Tuesday, my name is Toya Washington, and you have been listening to the Toya Talks podcast.